Yeah, the
Okay.
broadcast is live.
Yes, we are live. So welcome, LinkedIn. Sorry for the delay a little bit. We got into a technology glitch, and but finally we could make it. So glad to be again, hosting the show today, and that really made us think, right? I mean, how much technology is going to help us in what we do in our day-to-day life. I mean, if you really take example of data, we kind of have got a lot of things happening, right? And one of the things is RPA. I have been introduced to this RPA, robotic process automation, around 2017, and then that was basically a time when it was really taking, that it was a discussion point, and we were really learning a few things about that. But then after that, I really lost, it, and then now in again 2020 and on part of 2019, I was really hearing a lot about it. So it was always in my mind that how can we really see RPA and data together, and if we can have some discussion and some thought around that. So that's where Chandan comes into the picture, and he's our guest for today. And I would like him to talk about himself. But yeah, he has been into RPA field and data field for a long, long time. So I will hand over to Chandan for his quick introduction, and then we will get into the conversation. Chandan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sanjeev, and to all my audiences. So the sincere apologies, as Sanjeev mentioned, we were into a technical glitch, and that's how technology is. And so, if it's all about us, how we execute it, end of the day. So, yeah. So just to briefly introduce myself, so I've been associated with Dun and Bradstreet since last 20 years, and Dun and Bradstreet is the world's largest provider of data and insight solutions. So I began my career in Dun and Bradstreet in finance before moving, and after that moving into many roles within the organization before taking up before heading the data and operations unit of the company. So in this role, I was primarily responsible for managing the data quality of business entities, basically. So it all starts from acquisition and maintaining the life cycle of the entire data set. Uh, it includes, of course, in order to maintain the data and all, you need to have data coming from various sources and see how best we could manage the data within that. So, given my experience into operations and more importantly into data and also into process improvisations, it helped me to take up this role of implementing or leading the RPA implementation in India and Asia, particularly Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China. So, what I believe is, automation is just a facilitator for us. It all depends on us how we optimize our processes driven by data coming from various data streams, and that is where it's important that whatever data it goes into the work streams, it is of very good quality to for enable the desired sort of automation, whether we call it as RPA or any other digital transformation initiatives.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
So I think,
Sanjeev.
that's a great point. I mean, so tool is one way to facilitate what you want achieve as a business process, but behind the scene there has to be a lot of things that should be also put in a right way so that the tool can really go ahead and help you achieve those objectives, right? I mean, that's a great point, and that's where we kind of keep talking, right? I mean, uh, people, process, and technology, right? Technology definitely is going to be enabling us, but before that, we have to maintain and manage a lot of things so that technology really does help us. Great thoughts, Chandan. So how did how has your overall experience in the RPA, and what has been your certain insights around that? I mean, would you put a couple of your wisdom around that?
Yeah, as you mentioned, this RPA has been taking traction since last couple of years, but actually it has been around since quite long. And it's only that the process has evolved over the years, and it is evolving for better. And we are ahead for looking for exciting times with the implementation of RPA. So Sanjeev, just so I thought that before I begin into dive into RPA, and given that the context of
Right.
this particular theme, importance of data, uh,
Right.
I would rather see or put it as in this way, like importance of data in context of RPA is about how how data is important to actually drive RPA or any other digital transformation.
That's the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not only about data, but also the underlying process that drives automation piece. And as I said, my introduction, automation is a facilitator. So it has to be necessarily driven by data and the processes driving it. So again, so uh, before I get into stuff, data and RPA, I just wanted to share one small anecdote from our Indian mythology. It is from a plot from Ramayana. So
Interesting.
so maybe our Indian audiences who are familiar with this mythological, I'm sure most of them would be able to relate it. So here's the plot. So uh, Lakshmana, the brother of Lord Rama, so he gets injured uh, when poisonous arrow that comes from the enemy. As a result, so he feels unconscious and he is struggling for life. So and during the process, so one of the physician comes over there and he uh, comes up and says that it's important that we need to save his life, and to save his life, you need to have certain magical herbs to be flown in from 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 the mountains of North India. And so now saving Lord Lakshmana's life is the objective now. So in order to do that, so the physician instructs Lord Hanuman. So he is a divine god, most powerful, said to be most powerful. He enters in with this task of getting this magical herbs from the mountain.
Mhm.
So so Lord Hanuman takes a huge leap and he flies over the oceans, mountains, and everything, and ends up into that mountain. And this is where the problem begins. So in today's world, we could typically the same big data problem that we are talking about, and here big data I could relate it to the big mountain what Hanuman lands up. And as soon as he lands up, he tries to gather the thought that okay, I need to find this magical herbs. But the reality is, he finds a lot of certain identical sort of herbs over there, which looks like those herbs, but not sure whether it is actually the so. Typical big data problem. Ambiguous data. You're not certain whether it's the same thing that you want, relevant data or irrelevant data. In this case, is that particular herb relevant or not? So he is just confused with all those stuff. And on top of it, there is, uh, as I said, uh, some of those particular herbs which looks like are in the open, some in the bushes, some here and there. So not too sure which one is the actual one. So just like our structured, unstructured data, and how clean or how messy is the data is all about. So this is a typical problem that we all come to face on a day-to-day basis. And Lord Hanuman, so he says that, well, I'm struggling to find the magical herb, sort of thing. What do I do? So let me pick up this entire mountain and let the physician take care of it. When I say the physician, so just related to the data scientist or the analytics guy. So here comes the big data. So our facilitator, our vehicle, in the form of Lord Hanuman, he picks up the entire mountain and lands up in front of the physician. So, so imagine, so instead of getting a solution, you are getting a bigger problem. So this all up to the physician to to actually, climb up the mountain and just uh, segregate or remove the weeds out of the actual herbs. And this is precisely a data scientist problem. So in order to get into a right data, all those particular issues like cleansing the data, remove the data with all those duplicates, you're cleansing for standardization so that you get a consistent data, and data in all correct in all formats and shapes. And this physician goes up and he collects all the relevant data, and uh, he put some combination of some other herbs, meshes up, and all this stuff. And end of the day, he derives at that magical medicine, which finally saves Lakshmana's life. Same thing as once you got that particular data, it flows into your analytic models, and then it's a voila moment, and you come up with the solutions. The analytic model helps.
That's a great
So,
example. That's a great. I think
so thanks to
what I was thinking is that from the point of, and you said right that specific magical herb, right, and people are really looking at that specific magical herb in this whole technological or maybe volume of data that we are talking about, right? That we can probably call it as an insight as well, right? So we are looking for
yeah.
that insight. We probably are not able to get it for good reason because of the volume, the quality of data, the way we are preparing and all that. So instead, we are picking up everything and bigger problems we are picking. So yeah, please continue. Yeah, I think that's really.
So now, well, enough of mythology, and now coming to reality now. So let's assume, so we have considered Hanuman as the carrier of the mountain. So in this particular theme of discussion, I'll connect RPA to our Hanumanji. So RPA is a facilitator to here we to get all those data from various sites. Just imagine for a moment, had Hanumanji been instructed about getting that particular right kind of data, just instead of just saying magical herbs, but what that magical herbs constitutes about, what is that thing that one can differentiate between a magical herb and an ordinary herb. So imagine had he been loaded with this information, maybe he could have ended up in getting just the herbs and not the mountain. And this is precisely true when we talk about RPA or any digital transformation initiatives. So it's important that that the the right type of data gets fed into the automation streams, so that absolutely, so the outcome that we get is absolutely the desired outcome basically, and it's not like something like garbage in, garbage out.
Chandan, I'll
That's
stop
Sanjay.
you. I'll stop you there for one thought here, right? I mean, you said that
Yes.
right data should get into the system to give you the right result, right? But before that, you really said a very important, I would say, very important, sentence there, right? I mean, had uh, Lord Hanumana or anybody in this, I mean, say, let's take a data steward or a data professor, right? Had they been instructed in a way that what they should probably get. So how that will drive based upon how we are making our data governance processes, policies, business rules, a lot of information which kind of facilitates. So a lot of functional information gives the idea that, oh, hey, we want to go and pick that instead of the entire mountain, right? I mean, it is very, very important for people working in this data governance or data management area is to really precisely define the requirement, business requirement, and then go pick what is needed rather than just picking everything just because we can hold everything, we can't store everything. And that's very good, thought. And I wanted to add to our audience that we are precisely talking about the entire process of requirement, process policies, business rules, data quality stuff, and then having it fed into the system. And that's where I think Chandan is coming from.
Yeah. So thanks, Sanjeev, for coming in. So we talked about robotic process automation and RPA and all. So before I delve further, just for the sake of repetition, and I'm sure a lot of audience will be aware of RPA as such. Basically, in very simple terms, RPA is a software application that replicates or mimics a chain of commands which are executed by bots, or it mimics human behavior governed by certain business rules to perform those repetitive tasks again and again, and basically these tasks would be, uh, as I said, it's repetitive in nature and also voluminous in nature as well. So what the most important thing is, like, it is governed by certain business rules. So as it's important to tell Hanuman that what you need to, where you need to go and how you need to do it, it's also important to teach the robot or program the robot about actually what needs to be done in a uh, precise manner. And the robot just follows the instructions what has been given to it, and it will never deviate from the instructions, and it just like it performs its actions to the code. So again, retreating the same fact about how uh, data is important about it. So we have a lot of uh, other subjects around RPA about the best use cases. I mean, Sanjeev would be coming about talking about the best use cases, and how do we identify or prioritize those particular use cases, because once there is an automation, democratization of automation, you will find implosion or explosion of ideas that comes from the participants, users, all those stuff. So, but at the same time, it's important that how you prioritize these initiatives. What is the ROI behind it? What is the business outcome out of it? What's the objective that we are trying to achieve? All these things is our topic in itself. I'm sure we will be coming with these particular topics in coming series. Uh, I'm just for the purpose of this discussion and in the context of data, let's stick to data now. So,
Yep.
as I've been repeatedly saying, that it's always important that uh, it's important for data to function, or data to have to drive the RPA. In the definition or in a small uh, introduction of RPA, you found that okay, it's one that drives repetitive actions which are voluminous in nature, and all those stuff. So which are driven by business rules. On the face of it, it looks very simple. Okay, fine. But when you apply it, or when the thought process, when you apply it intelligently, there are a lot of use cases where complex cases in tasks can be driven through RPA. All it needs is a bit of creative thinking around the processes. I mean, before starting a journey into an RPA automation, it's important that review one has to review the existing process, understand the processes, and make it simple so that it is compatible for the robot to consume it. Uh, Processes which are very unstable or which are not consistent enough will not make it into the RPA. So hence it is important for the user and the analyst or whoever is driving the implementation of automation, make sure the processes are streamlined if it is not, and the processes become more consistent. So one has to break down that particular process many small subtasks, so that you make it more rule based. So that is what is important. So again, coming back to significance of data. So why we are talking about data all the time in terms of driving the RPA.
Mhm.
Would have heard about saying that okay, data drives automation and all those. Even if we are just pumping in all the data, don't expect the results to be coming in the desired the outcome that you had desired for. So it's all about what data you put in. It's like garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So it's important that we need to have uh, quality data in place that flows into the automation streams. Now ask me, what do you mean by quality data? So I would say that any data which is accurate, uh, complete in all aspects, and most important, timely. The data should be good enough, that it is relevant at that point of time, and also it needs to be consistent. So, given the fact that today the data sources are coming from various internal or external sources, so it's a very high chance that the data would not be consistent from all the sources. It could be because of human intervention in getting those particular data into the data stream, how you enter it, how you enter into your database, are you following the governance rules, and if the data is coming from external sources, how good or how bad is that particular data? Is it coming from a structured or unstructured source? And if you are uh, applying OCRs or any other technology to pass those particular information, are those transformed information free from any blemishes? And if at all there are any blemishes, are there any do we have any in place to take care of the blemishes, to cleanse those particular records? So it's a humongous task for a data engineer or any operations analyst to make this particular undertake this data cleansing activity.
So
Well,
Chandan,
there are
one
two. Yeah,
Chandan, one
go
thing I
ahead.
will here. So I mean, as we heard from you, you have been into various roles. One of them, and large part of your was data and operations. So and that you rightly said that made you a good candidate for the RPA. So I mean, what are some of the learning that you could apply? Because as you rightly said, right, we have to think about data governance. It has to be of right quality. We have to also see that we are picking what we want rather than picking everything else. You also talked about process should be streamlined. I mean, it should be basically repetitive and consistent. So those are the key things that I am picking from the conversation. What I am also thinking while I was hearing you is right. There is two things here. One, that how data helps RPA get successful. At the same time, can we have RPA as a technology applied to the data domain itself so that it is the lot of operations can be handled automatically? For example, a lot of tasks that we do as a data guys are like really cleansing, mixing, merging, a lot of actual operations, taking data from one places, putting it to the other places. We talked about some what do you call that? Test data and all creation. So how do you think that the other part is also true? One is that okay, data is important to RPA. We are talking about that subject, but coming back to the data, RPA itself helping data to become really cleansed, governed, and all those stuff. So we would like to also touch that aspect as well in your conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a great point into it. So actually, the RPA is as actually used into getting the data correct in all aspects. So as I said, so it's a cycle. So before getting into any of this thing, it's important that you are feeding the right data into the automation stream so that you get the right output as well. So it's a it's a continuous process. So humans will all be there, your internal and external sources will always be there, your data sources will only go on exponentially increase. So it's important that to teach the program also, how you take care of these particular anomalies, how you rectify these particular issues and the data. So it's basically the same thing. As I said, your actions are governed by business rules, and your business rules are an outcome of your data governance policies and objectives, business objectives.
Great statement. Yeah.
So once you have stabilized your processes, and it's all about uh, programming the RPA to take care of such governance policies, your business rules, and all those stuff. So whenever so let's for example uh, talk about instance about a manual data entry. So earlier the human would be entering a data from picking a data from a particular database, and maybe entering into some other database or into some other system to create a report or generate a database for it. If this particular activity of human data entry is it's monitored and you create a rule behind it. So the robot can easily take over this particular activity. So this is a very simple use case. Apart from that, when we are talking about getting data in huge volumes, so this is where automation is really, really helpful. So imagine you are getting data from various sources, and all the data sources would end up into something called a data lake. You get all sort of data, structured data, unstructured data, duplicates data, standardized, non-standardized data, and all those stuff. So it's about, again, picking out the magical herb from the mountain. So in order to do that, you need to teach Lord Hanumana or Hanuman, that is RPA here, to give specific instructions about how you pick up those particular data. And just imagine the power of automation or the power of RPA when you give that particular instruction to the machine. It is going to do precisely the same stuff what you are expected the machine to do. And that is where the RPA comes in to improve the quality of data. So let me go back over to the characteristics of the quality data. What we are talking about, accuracy. First one, being a machine and having programmed that particular machine to input that data in the same fashion or in a particular order. There is no way that the machine would end up doing any machine, which probably there'll be a human error had it been done by a human being. Completeness. It's also important that all the data what has been collected, uh, which is fit for you or relevant data at least. When I say completeness, there is no end to completeness. So one has
Yeah.
to, yeah. So the analyst, depending on the business objective, the analyst or the data scientist would define this is what it means for me to consume that particular data. And this is where it's important that the robo ensures that all the data is fed into the particular system. And if there are any discrepancies or the thing, it comes as an exceptions which can be taken up by humans for corrective actions. So timeliness. If you are not getting those particular data in that part of time, uh, the you lose that particular significance of that particular data or decision. So had it been entered by humans and considering such a managing those particular data in such huge volumes, it is impossible for human beings to address those particular data issues. And this is where, as I said earlier, when the machine is governed by certain business rules, it can process that data in minutes. So here is a timely element of it. And then we talked about data consistency. Given the fact that it is coming from various sources, it's important that you have a single source of truth. And this is where, so whatever blemishes are there in those particular data, whether you call it as data duplications, data standardization, or any other these things, the rules would take care of itself, and you get a consistent data. And all this, as I said earlier, if you are pumping in quality data into this particular stream, and eventually it's a cycle. So you got in the data, and again, uh, you know uh, data begets data. So because data is connected to various databases, and again, those databases have the capability to generate more data. So just imagine a situation when your data goes downstream to the analytics front, and now they have with them a pool of huge enriched data, unlike a few sample set of data. So when you compare a larger data set as a sample base as compared to a small sample set, obviously the outcome from the larger sample data is good. And I recall our conversation, Sanjeev mentioned, end of the day, it's a sample data. It's very less data for but automation would drive in. getting this sample data more matured, more meaningful, and the size of the sample data is also larger because you have the ability to process that particular data uh, quickly and correctly.
Right. Right.
That drives your analytical purpose as well.
I think it all drills down to, I mean, what I'm hearing and what I think we all, kind of advocate is that RPA as a robo, behind the scene robo, would basically work and governed by what you are setting up. So it is much more important than the tool itself to be able to really know your process, know what you are trying to achieve. You should be very, very clear about the objectives of putting the RPA in place or using the robo in place to get your operation done. But before that, you have to do a lot of behind the scene work, like to
Absolutely,
and then feed in the information. It's like
absolutely,
instructing. It's like
absolutely,
instructing one to really get what you want. So that's where I'm hearing. So there are, if I read, I mean, if you read the certain articles and hear from certain people, experts, right? I mean, we are also hearing that while the RPA is promising, at the same time there are some hesitation in people's mind and in the leaders' mind that okay, how far it can be useful, how sustainable it is, or is it going to really help me end to end, or it is just piecemeal support to support certain part of my operation and not the entire life cycle because of the complexity. So those that were some of the challenges which I kind of figured and heard. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is it really true that it is not sustainable, or maybe it is going to only support certain use cases or certain part of the use cases and not the entire life cycle of the business operation? What are your
yeah, absolutely. So let me be very so this thing about RPA. So don't assume or don't believe that RPA is a solution for all your problems, business problems. I would rather say there could be better solutions as well. When I say better solutions, it's all about how you manage those particular different applications. So which are working in isolation, and this is where RPA helps in integrating those particular applications which are otherwise operating at bespoke locations, which are being managed by people, may not be communicating with each other. So the best of those applications may not be actually exploited as such. But when I say RPA, so it's not only about uh, making the things happen, but also bringing the best of those particular application by intelligently integrating those particular application as per your process flow. If task A is automated and task B is not automated, so how do we do that? So bring that particular B also into the value chain, and make sure that how you can apply your learning sort of RPA to automate those. So it's a series of small processes that we are talking about where you can automate, and then when you integrate all those particular processes, and that is where you will find the actual results. Because if you end up, you may, there are a lot of tasks, these folk tasks. You come up and saying, okay, I need to scrape the data now. Okay, well, so RPA can help you in scraping the data. Well, um, there are other these things options available as well. I mean, one can always say that okay, well, Python can also do that. Well, Python can also do that. Yeah, get the best one which can do the stuff for you. So just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just say scraping the data. Then what? You scrape the data. It's there in your data lake. Then what? Oh, then we'll be doing this particular activity map. That is what the question that you need to ask. And okay, fine. So what is that you're trying to do it manually? Well, we do this, we do that, we do the standardization, and okay, fine. So what is the rule set of what logic are you applying? So it's basically go on asking those why until you just get those. Yeah,
that's great
I,
example.
it's yeah. So the objective is all about how are we trying to simplify this particular process and see how we can bring it into automation stream. Well, so there are instances, so we are still in the cutting edge of technology, and as I speak, we are largely addressing those rule-based sort of automation tasks. as we evolve, as we maybe in future, uh, I'm sure all this leading uh, RPA agencies or RPA vendors are working to bring in that particular cognitive element piece in as well. So how you make sense out of those particular uh, maybe making sense out of the text. How do you say uh, make or buy? Go or go or no go ahead decisions. On the basis of what otherwise a human being would have exercised his thoughts in getting that done. So I have not yet come across or maybe been able to see any use case on that, but definitely there are use case in terms of uh, bringing in AI or machine learning or uh, OCR into the process. I
So,
just talked about machine learning.
and then since you brought this topic, right, I mean, consider this question also, right? I mean, it was in my mind always. I explored a little bit, but I wanted to really understand from who the person who is right using it day in day out, right? How mature is AI and ML use cases, or I mean, in terms of RP, right? I mean, how well they are kind of working together. Is there a good evolved technology in place, or I mean, not technology, but good evolved processes already built into the RPA, or it is still taking shape and then it has to mature a little bit more from AI
No,
and
yeah, as I said, it is still taking shape, but there could be, for example, when we talk about machine learning, it's all about feeding the machine with the training data,
yes,
and then this training data could be a mix of good data and bad data. And when I say bad data, from a training perspective, it's also important to have bad data to actually understand what is the nature of exceptions, and that is where your machine can handle those particular exceptions. So when imagine it's not an easy task for any manual to extract data from various sources, because it's important that we need to understand where the data lies in the first place, and having identified where it lies, we should have the ability to get the data immediately for processing. So this is where RPA helps, or any automation technology helps in bringing the data very quickly, and in huge numbers for the machine learning to take shape. And once you have that particular data fed into the machine learning model, you need to have the reference data as well, to see how thing. So I could only imagine as of now that there are ways and means where you can train the machine to take those particular calls, but still, um, it's still being evolved. So we need to. Uh, uh, there are still. I'm yet to come across very powerful use cases. How we have implemented AI or cognitive sort of intelligence into getting the things done. There are. When we talk about the next thing I'll talk about OCR. You got invoices and invoices. Unless it is in a standard format, coming from an utility agencies, it's easier to implement RPA. But imagine this thing coming from small size businesses day in day out, which is written handwritten, or even if it is generated from machines. So OCR will generate that particular data, and the machine needs to have that amount of huge number of data to understand the pattern, to understand how the invoices is coming out from different vendors in different shape. So that is something that once the training data is fed in, so uh, uh, what is the outcome basically? To what extent the correctness is there? Yes, so we are moving in that particular direction, but need
okay.
to still find, yeah, see that particular actual earth shaking sort of,
So
but definitely,
yeah, please.
no, I said, but definitely the technology is moving in that direction, to take care of all these pain points.
My other question that was coming in my mind is that the governance within the RPA ecosystem itself. So there are, I mean, I'm just looking at the various aspect of the whole, ecosystem, right? So we talked about RPA and data, and then how RPA itself can help data to be of good quality, data governance and data management. But now the coming to the system, the RPA ecosystem itself. So let's assume a situation scenario here, organization, and now getting into the RPA, and say that it has kind of settled on a certain tool, and then there is a team, and then they start looking at. So what is the life cycle of that whole process? First thing, and then secondly, since it is going at a very fast pace, it's a buzzword. People are definitely attracted towards this, and then trying to try their hands on that technology, bringing in that technology, and so definitely many people will have those access, and they will start creating their own processes. So how? So it will basically create one more, data sets, if I have to call it, right? I mean, programs. Many people will create many things at one place, and then how does this coordination happen? So the managing the ecosystem itself would be a big problem, because we are going with the fast pace. People in India is doing for our organization, and the organization has a branch in, say, somewhere else in the US, and those people are also doing. So how this whole handshaking happens, that we are using the best practices first. We are utilizing what has already been developed for code reusability and all those stuff, rather than putting their own stuff and own solution, and again creating a mess, right? Because it is very much possible that we can create a mess with the RPA as well. And how do we govern that ecosystem itself? Your experience from the project standpoint.
Yeah, so you make a made a very telling statement here. We might be very good in bringing out technology, the automation or whatever, but uh, in terms of communication, it needs to be communicated properly across your organization. And as you said, so there will be different people who will be addressing different objectives, not necessarily the different objectives. A pain point for you perhaps could be the pain point for me. It could be a same problem. So maybe you have taken route A, so maybe some other has taken route B. But if you're not too sure which one is the optimal one, so this is where this communication helps. This was the business problem, and this is how it was achieved. And if there is a best possible scenario or the best practice which has already been laid out, so the communication will help in not reinventing the whole wheel again. So suppose someone else is coming up with certain uh, business issue, and that particular business issue has already been addressed by someone else in the organization. It's all about optimizing that particular uh, workflow automation, replicating your processes. Other thing is like not necessarily it will be plug and play. So what's important is understand what's the business objective over there, and what is that you are trying to achieve on the basis of that. It may not call for reinventing the whole thing again, but it will ask for certain tweaks here and there, and it will still address your business objective. So having this communication in place helps then in driving the automation initiative quite faster. More than being fast, it also helps in bringing in transparency. So when I talked about uh, the democratization of ideas, so
Right.
somewhere you also mentioned about how do we ensure that RPA would be successful. Before
Yeah.
that, or maybe before that, it's an enterprise-driven initiative. So it needs to have the sponsorship and the blessings the the top executives. Actually, it's not only about the sponsorship of the top leadership, but also it has to drill down to across all levels of your organization. It should not happen that it's an initiative at the top level, and the middle level people are not too so keen in implementing for whatever reason. So it's all about embracing the concept. It's not about threatening anyone with the consequences of RPA. So it only helps in improving your the value that you're bringing to the organization, because you're devoting more time for more interesting initiatives or whatever innovations that you had otherwise kept it in your mind, and you're not able to address it. And by virtue of automation, it helps you to focus pursue those particular initiatives. So this is from a very human sort of human angle as such. How do you address apprehension about implementation of
You made
technology?
it has to be basically fully sponsored in terms of not there has to be a champion uh, within the organization who is like fully in support to this thing. We need to really probably think that why in the first place that we are going for it and what are the different business objective it will help. The other thing, I mean, obviously these are required as you rightly said, right, and it also should drive drill down to the level of the say project, people who are really going to use it and department level also, right. The other thing that I was thinking is that how important is tool selection. I mean, again, I didn't want to really go and get into the names. I'm just thinking that it is a process, it's a big thing. People are always thinking that okay, there are many tools, which one I should buy, or um, how do I select the best one that fits my need. So how important is that, and how to go about it? If you have got some thoughts on that, that would be really helpful to the user.
Yeah. So most of the automation tools what we see today are quite good. Basically, it's not about that this is better. The important thing is about when we give any use case or how these particular whatever whoever vendors are able to address those particular business problem in the most optimal way or in the best possible way. Uh, it's all about like if you were to ask me how do you select your vendors, vendor A or vendor B,
Yeah.
I need to test their expertise. So it's not just by saying that okay, this one is good, that is good. Even my business problem.
Mhm.
So how are these particular vendors going to address my issue? With whatever tools they are having in place. So it's all about giving a particular use case scenario or testing the thing with certain business problems and see how best one can uh, address those particular issues. This is at a very very high level. And of course, once you have sorted this on this particular uh, issue, and when you're able to understand that, or maybe take a call that you're good with going ahead with this particular vendor, and then it, the other commercial aspects comes into place. How best. Uh, but to
I
begin
was
with,
towards the process rather than commercial, because ultimately if the benefit can justify the cost, then cost should not be problem. I mean, and that's what my thought was.
absolutely,
How do I go
yeah,
about it?
absolutely.
What are the key criteria that I should keep in my mind before when selecting it and talking to them? Is the POC must? I mean, definitely it has to be, but at what level, which ones? So I think those are the critical thing that people definitely. I mean, I keep hearing and reading, and then see that there are struggle there. That okay, which one is the best tool? Because as you said, right, things are evolving at the same time. It is getting added, so I can't probably see everything from where it is, where I am, right? I mean, so I want to make sure that okay, there is a good upgrade path out there who is more futuristic in nature, and then all those aspects in my eyes would be good thing. But I thought I'll take some practical experience from your uses, and then it will definitely benefit user. So thanks. I think that's a good, great, points to consider. Yeah.
So that's what Sanjay. This is what. If there is anything that you would like to check with me as such, um,
No,
happy to answer.
it has been really, great conversation. Before we kind of, wrap up, as we talked about, this subject is evolving. It is definitely a buzzword nowadays. People are after it. There are a lot happening in that direction. So if there is anything that people who are watching this wants to understand, have their questions, please do post us. Just let us know, and then we'll try to figure that out and get you the answers. Um, Before we really part, right? I mean, I want to really understand couple of things. Or I mean, I think you gave a very apt example of our Indian mythology and how it fits in, right? I mean, picking the magical herbs versus picking the mountain, that's the crux of the conversation. I know it is much more value added addition than anything else that we would just talk from now onwards itself, right? You have to really understand why you are talking about the RPA. What is that you want to get from it, right? If not, then you would definitely pick up the mountain, and then you will invest a lot of time and effort in finding the magical herb that you just said, right? So that is what the crux of the message. I know if user is watching, they would definitely appreciate. I'm expecting a lot of questions and maybe curious questions rather to really take it forward. So Chandan, I think it has been excellent. We talked about that how we want to probably get into little bit more deeper as we kind of progress together, but it all depends upon the user. If they have some insightful questions and that would really make us dig more, we would definitely make up a couple of more episodes where we can dig deeper into nitty-gritty of the RPA and take it from there, right?
Yeah. So just to wrap up, Sanjeev. So as you mentioned, uh, I would say RPA is no longer a hype now. So there are plenty of use cases in the industry. There are plenty of success stories around the RPA. What is important for the success of RPA is we have already well detail about the database. It's also important that we have the processes in place.
Mhm.
You before initiating the discussion, you talked about people, process, and technology. So technology is the process is there in the form of data and process. It's important that the human element is also there. It's not about people losing the job as such. It's all about how we are making the life more meaningful. With new technologies coming into place. You know, you can't see. I mean, it's very painful to see people doing that same when they are bound to do much better. Getting into data and cleansing those particular data, they are just trying to do much better. So and this I conclude that it's certainly not a hype. It's all about how intelligently we make the best possible use of the automation. We exploit the best possible resources out of the RPA, and just move from hype to hope.
Yep. Absolutely. Great. Thanks for your, parting comments and summarizing things out. And we will look forward for, different questions and curious questions so that we can make some, we can dig deep, a little bit deeper for the audience. So thank you for, watching. And I'll wait for your questions and we will take it from there. So this is Sanjeev, and you are watching Data Ki Baat, and we had a very nice discussion with Chandan. So thanks, Chandan, again for coming up and then sharing your RPA insights and importance of data for the RPA. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching, guys.
My my pleasure, Sanjeev. Thank you so much for having me on Data Ki Baat. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye bye.